Hello? Ah. Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're starting a little late, but pretty close to being on time. We do have one other speaker who's going to join us. So when she comes, we'll bring her up here to sit with our colleagues. My name is Alison. I work for an organization called No Peace Without Justice. We're very honored to be one of the 14 NGO co-sponsors of this event. I'm very proud to stand with our NGO colleagues, many of whom are in the room now, in support of our Rohingya brothers and sisters, who of course we're extremely pleased to be with here today on this, what has turned out to be a pretty good day so far, I think. A very good day. Wonderful. So, as you all know, the ICJ this morning issued its decision on the provisional measures that had been requested by the Gambia last December, and basically granted all of those requests by the Gambia, particularly the important ones in any case, ordering Myanmar to prevent genocide, ordering Myanmar to preserve evidence, and ordering Myanmar also to report back to the ICJ within 4 months and then every 6 months after that. So we're quite pleased, of course, with that decision. But what we think doesn't really matter that much. I think what our Rohingya brothers and sisters here, and as you can see here, also in the camps in Bangladesh, what they think is the most important thing. So we're going to hear from them today. And as I said, we have another colleague coming who will join us hopefully soon. And we will start with our colleagues in the camps, hoping to capitalize on the happy internet connection that we currently have, in case it doesn't keep, but we hope that it will, and you'll be able to stay with us for the whole event. Just a reminder, this event is being broadcast live into the camps and across the world, of course. And feel free to tweet about it. And if you want to tweet, there's a hashtag Rohingya reply, because this is about the perspectives of our Rohingya brothers and sisters. So I will turn over first to Rais in the camps. How are you guys all feeling? What does it mean to you? What happened this morning? Please, go ahead. Oh, no, there, go ahead.
Thank you, Alison. We had a pretty packed day. I'm a little out of voice, excuse me for that. We just met with Professor John Packer from the University of Ottawa, who was also looking at one of our schools. Few of our teachers were here with us, both females and males. The sisters had to leave, unfortunately, because of certain curfew timings that we have. So they're not with us. I've got my, some of the other teachers were still with me. I've got Chef and Inam over here. It's a jubilant moment, let me tell you that. It is joy everywhere. It is something we have anticipated for a long time. And I will pass it on to Shafiq to spread a few words about what he thinks. It is certainly a beautiful moment. You can go.
Please go ahead.
Decision.
Sorry?
Please go ahead.
So I feel very pleasant to listen to ICG decisions today. So I do thank ICG because my name is Muhammad Tawfiq. I'm from Bangladesh. So I'm very pleasant to listen ICG decision, final decision today. So I do thank ICG and Gambia and world community.
My name is Muhammad Amin. I am a refugee I am a Rohingya refugee. We are very pleased for the decision of ICJ because we don't have any fear to return to homeland and we have a hope that we can repatriate without any fear with that decision.
Thank you. Was there anyone else there with you who wants to say something?
Yeah, would you like to add something? Yeah. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Muhammad Ridwan. I live in Rohingya refugee camp in Bangladesh. I would like to thank about ICG with Gambia. So we are Rohingya genocide survivor. Actually, I think that there should be possible to preach to Myanmar government with clearly. Thank you so much.
I'll tell you honestly, it's life as usual at the camps. If you walk around, people are doing their own things. You know, kids are everywhere. They are in their own world. You know, men hustle, uh, do their small shop businesses that have sprawled all over the place in the refugee camps. I think there's a connection issue. Okay, so it's really life as usual. It is a packed, dense, unpleasant place to live. And where you hear from time to time in some shops a small radio that would be talking about the decision of ICJ and people huddling to them. Apart from that, it is really life as usual. I don't think things change until there's changes on the ground, until there is an enforceable decision, which is something we have discussion, I'm sure, question discussion for. How powerful is the decision if it cannot be enforced? You see, so things change for us over here. 4.2 million people living in the worst condition imaginable out there on this planet. It only changes if they are given back the dignity of the human, if they're allowed to return back to their homeland with peace, with human status, with the possibility to have an education. We were just at a meeting with, as a partner I was telling you, we had all our teachers here, both from primary school all the way to secondary school that we run, and they were all about education. You know, IJ was one of the things on the agenda discussion. We were all talking about education. So it's until things change on the ground, it is not really a giant deal. But we welcome the decision regardless.
Thank you very much, and thank you for bearing with our connection issues. I think you've highlighted something very important there. This is just one step on the long road to what we hope will end in justice. So we all need to hang in there and stay together and support each other through this process. I will turn now to the panel here before you. I will quickly introduce them, just their names and their affiliations. We start on the end here with Dr. La Myint, who's the president of the Rohingya Intellectual Community Australia and the chair of the Rakhine Human Rights National Organisation. I'm so sorry, Rakhine Rohingya National Organisation. I really should be wearing my glasses, but I'm not. So please forgive me. Next to La, we have Tung Kin, who's the president of the Burmese Rights Organisation UK, Burmese Rohingya Organisation UK. I'm so sorry. Next to him, we have Yasmin Ullah, who's with the Rohingya Human Rights Network. Got it right. And on the end, we have Nay San Luin with the Free Rohingya Coalition. So I'm going to turn to the panel now and ask you if we can just go from La to Nay at the end. Quick question, 2-3 sentences. What does it mean to you? What happened this morning?
Today is a historic event. It's a major victory and it's one step forward. The justice of the global, the justice of the global, the wheel of the justice has been turned into our favor. So they're yet to come. There are more to be expected. I think this is just the beginning. I think there's yet more to come over. We have to wait and see. Hopefully, we will get the outcome that we're anticipating, and that's what at least my expectation is.
Thank you. John?
I think today is a historic day and historic moment even right now where we just left last 2 hours ago. And it's incredible, unbelievable, you know, as a genocide survivor, as I've grown up in Rakhine state, I have seen these human rights violations, and we've been campaigning, we've been lobbying many governments for many years. We calling for justice, justice. When I met, you know, like 744,000 Rohingya fled from Burma to Bangladesh in 2017, I spent 1 month fasting, unitedly. What I heard from them is, we want justice. Please, we want insaf. That's what they told us. So I believe, I feel that today, when listening, the verdict from the judge is make me, you know, we are moving forward. We believe that, we hope that justice is coming soon for the Rohingya, and whoever committed these crimes, they can never get away with that. No matter what kind of reports or government commission they try to, you know, government commissions they try to divert, there's no such way. Anonymously, 17 judges supported it. And it is totally incredible. We feel that Rohingyas today, with Rohingyas international community, like they show in solidarity. This is such a great moment for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for being here. And thank you for all of your work in supporting us. Thank you, No Peace Without Justice, for allowing us to have this space to talk about our feelings. And, you know, most likely it's just going to be about feelings today. But we've had to almost suppress that feeling of what it's like to be a human, to be part of a community that's bigger, to be recognized as equal as others. These are some of the things that we've never had. We're still fighting for it. We're still struggling. The brothers and sisters in the camps are, you know, trying their best to be engaged, to you know, have this platform, but they're living in a very, very dire condition. And that includes my brothers and sisters in Rakhine State at the moment. Now, today's unprecedented court order help us be able to frame, you know, and the ICJ court is framing a different narrative. Not so different from what we're calling for, but they're allowing us that space to be considered a protected group, an ethnic minority. Regardless of peace or war, we are a protected group. And that's just something that we've been fighting for such a long time, to be humans as much as anyone else. I am incredibly happy to hear that, but I also know that we have a long road ahead of us. So I just hope that I can count on you all to be here 4 years from now or 40 years from now when we have to rebuild this community. I hope that you are going to be there with us through thick and thin. And I hope that when we need to rebuild that community, when we're able to go back home, or whatever happens next, that you're going to stand with us as firmly as you do now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. The first wave of massive violence against the Rohingya began in February 1978. After almost 42 years, today is the very first time justice for Rohingya is partially served. It is a great day for us. We know that there is a long road to go ahead, but today the order from this world highest court is a first step to end our 4-decade-long suffering and to end genocidal policy against us by the Burmese military and the government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I start with you, Nay, and ask you to go maybe a little bit more in depth? You mentioned the genocidal policy, and we know that recently there's been a renewed denial of humanitarian aid. I was wondering if you could reflect a little bit on that type of situation, the humanitarian aid situation, and how that sort of fits with what happened this morning.
Yeah, let me start with from the 1948, after Burma gained the independence from the British colonial in 1948. Rohingya were recognized as one of the official ethnic group, and we enjoy the full citizenship. In 1949, my great-grandfather applied the citizenship, but he received the letter from Minister of Justice saying that he doesn't need to apply the citizenship because he belonged to the one of the indigenous ethnic group of Burma. This evidence still I have. And during the democratic government, we were elected, and my great-uncle was a constituent assembly member, which was founded by the General Aung San, father of the today Nobel Peace Laureate Aung San Suu Kyi. And we had the radio program. We were recognized by the Burmese military. There are a lot of evidence, you know. But in early 1970, the Burmese military government planned to wipe out the entire community from the country and to destroy the entire community. So they have launched the Dragon King operation in 1978, which was the massive violence, you know. As a result, 270,000 had to flee to Bangladesh, but a few months later, they were driven out as an illegal Bengali immigrant from Bangladesh, but they were repatriated a few months later as a Rohingya. We still have many documents that issue at the reception center at the Bangladesh-Burma border at the time, and you know, in the application form, the form they have issued to the returnee, they mention the race name clearly that they are the Rohingya. So 4 years later, the regime and entered the new citizenship law, which make us stateless within our own country. Since then, you know, they have used this genocidal policy against us, and you know, restricted all movement, marriage, birth, you know, education, healthcare, and in 1992, they have imposed all the restriction and in place. So, like, for example, like, if the Rohingya want to travel from one village to another, even the 2-3 minute walking distance, need the special permission from the village authority, for which Rohingya need to bribe a lot of money just to travel a short distance. You know? So there were very limited access to everything. And again in 1991, you know, the government launched the same operation like a Dragon King in 1978. As a result, about 300,000 had to flee to Bangladesh again, and a few thousand only returned to Myanmar again in 1995. And most of them are still remaining in Bangladesh. So in 2012, there were a state-sponsored violence against the Rohingya, which the government framed like, you know, the communal violence. And as a result, about 150,000 were herded into the camp, which is same as a concentration camp. I have visited all the concentration memorial site in Germany. I have seen the similar camp. My own fellow people living in Situe and the other township in Rakhine state. So they are still in those concentration camp now. Those people remaining in other area in the northern, especially in northern Rakhine state, in Budirang, Mongdo, and Ratirang, They are exactly like in the apartheid condition, and I have experienced all this type of thing in the South Africa Apartheid Museum, you know. So since 2016, nobody is allowed to travel from one town to another, even with the special permission, you know. Before that, at least the people can apply for the special permission, bribe the authority, they can still travel from one town to another. But since then, you know, since 2016, they are not allowed to travel anywhere. They are not allowed to walk. They are not allowed to go anywhere, you know. So, like for the education, like since 2012, all the universities are closed. And, you know, Rohingya students are not allowed to study. They can only study until the grade 10. After they finish the grade 10, that means their education is finished. So, like these people in the village, they have nothing to do. They cannot fish, you know. If they want to go to the river or anywhere, you know, they need the permission from the military or the Boragat police, which is rarely they issue, you know, even with the big amount bribe. So they all are dependent of the food distribution made by the International Red Cross and the World Food Program, and sometimes the local authority restricting them, you know, not to distribute the food. So like these are all the policy, you know. There are a lot of things. I am not saying, you know, it will take at least 2-3 hours to explain you every detail, because I am running the network inside the country since 2012. I have the base in every township. I have update in my phone in every hour. Until now, you know, there is nothing has changed. Every day there are the several types of the persecution, like the sexual abuse, the harassment, torture, and, you know, the extortion. Like, you know, if one Rohingya go out from the home, he or she will face this Boragat police inside the village. Outside the village, there are the military outposts. Inside the village, there are at least 2 or 3 Boragat police outposts, you know. Nobody can use the mobile phone outside, like with the smartphone. Nobody dare to, you know, go inside the village. And all the time, there are the sexual violence against the women, are, you know, in every village, you know, whenever they cross the Boragat police outpost, you know, they are searching their body in the name of the searching the thing, you know, like the SIM card or something. So the suffering is every day. There are the limited access to the food, daily livelihood, and also in the camp, I'm saying about the concentration camp, you know, they are not allowed to go out from their camp. They are just also dependent of this food distribution. There are also sometimes like 1 month or 2 month restriction from the government just to make them the food shortage, you know. This way, at least Rohingya are surviving, and some of them are fleeing to the neighboring country, like, you know, the Thailand, Malaysia, by the boat. They are taking the risky journey. Many were drowned into the sea. We don't really know how many hundred, how many thousand were, you know, drowned and killed in the sea. So all the policy are still in place. Nothing has changed. So today, the court order to protect our people as other ethnic minority in the country. Let us see whether this Myanmar government and the military is following the order or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll turn to you now, La. I wanted to ask you about the recent executive summary that was issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I believe, concluding that, well, yes, maybe there were war crimes, sorry about that, but no genocide. It seemed very similar to what we heard from the agent for Myanmar last month in The Hague. I was wondering, I know you have maybe some reflections on that.
Yeah, I think all those we have a press release. I think I sent it to the European Union Parliament, and as well as the audience will be distributed those leaflets. Everything that they made are highly flawed lies, fabricated. You know, they have make up their own commissions just to justify their own, you know, mass atrocity crime, the commissions of the mass atrocity crime that they have committed in all aspects of life. They're saying they're completely providing a blanket denial, the blanket denial of what's happened on the ground. They say that they are labeling the independent and impartial commission like under the clause of so-called that they're fact-finding missions or double IMMs are just serving the interests of the foreigners so that they can destabilize the country. Their primary the facing motto is that they want to stabilize the country, and the agent Aung San Suu Kyi, during her first day at the hearing, she said that let Burma give a chance. How long do we have to wait for that chance to be given? We waited for 50 years as the whole population, or 70 years for the Rohingya people. Okay, they said, they said all this international mechanism is jeopardizing the reconciliation process on the ground. And based on that primary opinion of our government, they released a very flawed report, which is consistent from every aspect of their particular articles, and we have refuted that very much in details. At the moment, I don't want to go into those details. I rather want to focus on the decision that's been made by the ICJ. At the ICJ, there are 4 provisional measures that have been granted unanimously.
Let me get going. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Sorry to interrupt you, brother.
We can hear you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Greg, so I would request that you allow us to leave, please. We had a few other people with us.
I have to speak louder. Is that what you say? Okay. The ICJ
No, I'm not asking you to speak louder. I'm requesting for permission to leave. We cannot stay any longer.
Okay.
Our sisters have to leave because there are certain curfew timings that are imposed inside the refugee camps. For myself, I'll have to go through a few checkposts before I get back to Cox's Bazar. We will have to get going. Thank you for including us.
No, I think I speak for the room when I say thank you all so much for being with us. We really appreciate it, and we wish you the best getting home. Thank you so much.
Yes, today ICJ unanimously indicated 4 provisional measures to protect the right of Rohingya in Burma, with which Burma must comply. First, Burma shall take all the measures within its power to prevent the commission of all acts of genocide, such as arbitrary killing, confiscations of properties, causing all kind of physical harms in the body, and compelling the Rohingya population to flee the country. Second, the government of Myanmar must ensure that Burma military and all actors or groups operating under the military direction, influence, or control not commit genocide as well as other mass atrocity crimes. Third, Burma must additionally take effective measures to prevent destructions and ensure the preservation of any evidence related to any acts of genocide. Fourth, and finally, Burma must submit a report to the ICJ on all measures taken to effect to the court's order within 4 months from the day that this order has been issued, and they have. And every 6 months there will be a rotation in basis of countering each other's claim. So it's a long way to go, but I think, as I said from the beginning, the wheel of international justice has turned into our favor, and I think the world is not buying all the lies that have been producing both the government and Aung San Suu Kyi, because what she's trying to say on one hand, she's making a contradictory statement. She said she doesn't have power, but she has the power to come to ICJ. She's paying attention, okay? On the other hand, she's saying to her internal audience that she's doing everything she could to save the image of Burma. This is another thing that we have to be careful. But either way, she's losing. I don't know why she's playing in this hide and seek or cat and mouse politics. That's what I have to add.
Thank you very much. Turning to you, Yasmin, catching you on your phone.
Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. I wanted to ask you about the aspect of the sexual and gender-based violence.
Just what I hope to talk about.
Good.
Yeah,
Please,
perfect.
go right ahead.
I'm going to seize the opportunity of being the only woman in this panel to
So
talk
far,
about it.
so far.
Yeah, so far. There's still some, one more person. I just saw the press release by the International Court of Justice, and there are two separate opinions, and then Judge Su also put out. Sorry, the ad hoc judge appointed by Myanmar also put out his statement. Now, I want to begin with a quote from Judge Cansado Trindade. I hope that I'm not mispronouncing his name too badly, but he wrote in one of the paragraphs, "Human conscience stands above the will of the state." And I just want that to sink in. Human conscience stands above the will of the state. We have to be human first before we are a citizen of anywhere. Before we go about doing anything else, our humanity matters more than anything else. Now, we as a group of people have been persecuted, like my colleagues have, listed, and you've heard millions of those stories many, many times before. But I still want you to hear this. The historical judgment today, or the order on the provisional measures and the long road that is ahead of us, although it cannot mend the wounds that has already been inflicted, although it cannot revive the people that had died, our most beloved ones that have gone because of this, the pain of being the other is just so grave. And although we're going to have to be really, really sitting down and thinking about how we want to envision our future past the ICJ case or past any other things that would happen to us in the future, we really have to almost come to terms with all of these reality that's happening so spontaneously, not at just this level. We're the privileged ones. We're the ones that are able to travel outside. The people at the camps are the real heroes. They survived. And they survived, and they're letting you know that they're going to continue to survive no matter who stand beside them or not. Now, some of the stories that I've heard of women who've been sexually violated or experienced any type of sexual and gender-based violence, they also decided that even though the world has turned, its back on them for many, many decades, they still want to live, and they made sure that we know about it. Their living today is a testament to how strong we are as a community. No matter what people say, no matter what level of education you think we have, we know one thing, is we want to be able to be as human as anyone else. And you're going to hear the word human so many times that I think you're going to want to block your ears, but it is important for us to realize what that means to us more personally, more internally. It is something we need to define within ourselves. It also sends the message to, the court order today sends the message to the survivors and the survivor of the sexual and gender-based violence very specifically, although it's not, mentioned as many times as it should be, that impunity, is not for a long time. impunity is no longer something that Myanmar military and the civilian government can actually enjoy. They've walked away with all these crimes committed against us and many other ethnic minorities, including the ethnic sisters that have been raped. I recall hearing one of my colleagues from the Shan community at one of the conferences that we had at the Free Rohingya Coalition, that the military would try to atone for their sin of committing mass rape to children, to girls, by bringing them teddy bears. And that's just the very, very, very minimal of it. That are, this is some of the things that they do in order to atone for their crimes. Imagine those who don't even think that that's a problem. And that's why any talk about repatriation, any talk about us going back home, anything at all, would have to then first come back to these women and ask them if they're comfortable. If they're comfortable going to face their perpetrators while their perpetrators are walking free, roaming around in the region. While the perpetrators live completely a peaceful life and never have to face a judgment in the court, or a day in the court, or any sort of punishment, punitive measures. I'm not trying to bring you down with all of all of my emotions, but it is important to acknowledge this, because what rape and what sexual violence does is it puts two different two different questions out there. It questions the humanness of a woman that is in front of the perpetrators. It, changed the scheme and the scale of the power that a person has. And it put in question, all the elements of what makes us human, or having the autonomy over our own lives. So in order for us to go and move forward, I really, really hope that sexual and gender-based violence would, remain the forefront of what we talk about and how we approach the victims, the people who survived, and that we will continue to keep in mind the elements of re-traumatization, of not allowing us to want to go so deep into the problems that we're not allowing these women to be able to rebuild themselves at all. One of the things that I also need to highlight, I'm not sure if I've mentioned enough about this, but the ICOE report, or the Independent Commission of Inquiry, have mentioned in a very, very small paragraph. Actually, this was the executive summary from the President's office, President of Myanmar, saying in general, and I'm paraphrasing, I think in a very, very small paragraph within all these 15 pages of ARSA doing this, or so many different things about violence and communal violence and conflicts, and framing the issue of Rohingya in a different manner and taking it super lightly. They're saying that the commission found very little evidence, or found no basis of the evidence of the sexual and gender-based violence that took place, without interviewing any victims at all, without getting in touch with people at the camps, without talking to any of the people who actually witness it in front of them. They said that rape has no basis. And you need to know that we're living in a Me Too era, right? We believe women, and that's what we say. So as soon as something like this happens, it means that in a more general sense, and this comes from the presidential office itself, it goes to show that Myanmar remains a complete patriarchal country. And so all of these problems, and genocide is very patriarchal, if you have taken some sociology. But knowing that women in every single level of being existing inside Myanmar will never be able to get justice, given the remaining of the power structure inside the country at the moment. If nothing change at the top level, we can't go home. The ethnic minorities, brothers and sisters, will never get justice. They will never be able to, stop all these ceasefire agreements that come out every year. Every few months, there is these meetings between the leaders of each communities trying to work out the armed conflicts and whatnot. It's never just the armed conflicts. It's never just about the power scheme. It's never just about the land. It's about the people. It's about the money. It's about the most, patriarchal level or the highest office that makes these decisions to terrorize groups of people, to destabilize the community by inflicting pain on women first, because we are, the core of the communities. We are the, we are the center of the attention when it comes to what's the easiest thing to do to destabilize a community. Attacking women, raping them. Genocidal rape means that rape would happen in order to stop any procreation. And that's been the strategy for the longest time, for many, many decades. So realizing that there is a trend, realizing that the president's office that just, released a statement, released a summary 2 days ago, do not have a plan to right the wrongs, to change anything in this sense, means that you all and us, we have to be even more vigilant, with the court order or without. 4 years, 50 years from now, doesn't matter. But it has to continue. We have to stand with the people who are, at the crux of this all, and ensure that the military cannot, not just the military, but the civilian government as well, that they cannot walk away with impunity ever again, despite what the courts say, or whatever the courts say today, tomorrow, 4 years from now, whatever the decision comes out. Now, on a personal level, and that's why I started with the quote of the judge, human conscience stands above the will of the state. It resonated with me in a sense that when I was in a cell, trying to come to Canada, and it was the time that we really need to get the exit permit out of the country. Thailand didn't have the policy to allow people to resettle or allow people to have exit permit without them having passports. And I don't know how much you realize how powerful you are, each of you, because you all have a passport. And that one document that you have opens so many doors that you don't even realize. We were stuck in a country. We were trapped in a country that didn't want us. And actually walking from outside of the detention center into the cell, I thought to myself, well, I'm never going to get out of this. And so many women who went inside with me, because they segregate the gender, we were sitting there day in and day out, wondering whether or not we're going to ever make it outside, whether we're going to be able to smell the fresh air outside ever again. And I kept not sleeping because I was very nervous, praying almost 24 hours, just wanting to look outside to see the sky. And that's the situation of my sisters, of my brothers inside the camps, inside Myanmar, right now. Although some of them are allowed to walk, within the vicinity of the camps, or in the internment camps, or in their village, there's still this element of feeling trapped and having no way out. This order today highlights, and it was repeated many times, that Rohingya are a protected group, are an ethnic group, are a group of people who are allowed to be here, to exist, to be human as much as anyone else. In the times of war or peace, it does not matter. What matters is that we are human. And that, almost really made us made us all quite emotional. The one thing that I realized didn't happen inside that cell when I was just waiting for something to change, waiting for me to be able to come to Canada, to be resettled and looking forward to a new life, was that we're going to have this day in court. I did not imagine that. As a young girl praying for my parents to come home every day from selling street food and dodging the the immigration officer in Thailand, because the police roam around to find people, to charge them, to deport them because of the immigration issue. I did not imagine that we would have this day in court. Being in Thailand for 16 years, not having a connection with my family or my roots or the history of me, of who I am as a person, or the connection to any of these people until much later in life, really, I did not imagine that we're going to have this day in court. And I can't imagine not thanking the people that are with me today, the activists who've been working so hard for many, many years in order for this day to come, the grassroots activists who go out there and protest every single time something happens, government officials who decided to join us, Canada, Netherlands, the Gambia, who actually decided to bring about the case, even though it's really, if they don't do it, no one else will blame them for not doing it. So it is a historical day, like my colleague said, but I also want to emphasize the fact that, yes, we can be happy today, but I want us to be happy 4 years from now when the decision of the court comes. I want us to be able to rebuild this community stronger than ever once we actually have a proper measures in place for us to be able to go back home and really, really become, parts and parcel of what makes Burma great, by working with people who are right now trying to change the narratives and trying to change the face of the political landscapes inside the country, and changing the hate rhetorics and making the Burma more democratic, not just as a token or as an incentive for fundings to come from outside, but real change. So I thank you all for being here, and I hope that I can count on you for many, many more events that is going to come. Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to say, you mentioned that you hope you weren't bringing us down. I can say you're not bringing me down, you're inspiring me to do more. And that's where I wanted to come now to Tun. Yasmin also mentioned the amazing support that had happened so far, the grassroots activists, getting government officials on board and so on. Now that we have an ICJ case, and I think, let's all remember, we now actually have an ICJ case, so that's really good. We have the ICC case, we have the cases in Argentina, there's other things happening. What more can we do to support you in your work? Remembering here we have civil society, diplomats, media, others. What would you be looking for from us to help you in the, as you said, the years ahead?
I think we have to see, this is long way. This is historic day. We are very pleased. It is such a great momentum we can see in a few months' time about this justice mechanism we're going on, especially ICJ. In 4 months' time, we're going to hear what Burma will comply and what international community will support it, because this is important that excuse me. UN Security Council, they have to stop politics of, where Rohingyas are facing genocide. It's been set down many times, but we need to look at how many countries can move forward to support Gambia, one thing. We appreciate, of course, Gambia, Netherlands, and Canada. And many more countries need to come, first thing, to support Gambia. And secondly, UN Security Council have to monitor what Burma complying with these, with these measures, how they are moving forward. And international community, like especially EU members and ASEAN members, OIC members, they have to, they really have to pressure more than ever. This is time more than ever we need, because International Court of Justice already granted for the provisional measures. How many more lives we need to be, how many more Rohingyas need to be killed to take, to force them to take action, for the governments. We appreciate international community concern. They're raising up the issues. It's been going on 2 years. We have not seen that much from the government side. A small country, Gambia, have taken this, and we are today here because of Gambia did that. We are enjoying this today, this joyous time. I've been advocating for more than 10 years, believe me. European Parliament, European Union, United States, State Department, US Congress, and Senate, and many governments and many countries. We appreciate their concern for support on humanitarian aid, but we want to see this is genocide, destroying our community with intention. They have taken away our ethnic right first, and then taken away our citizenship first, secondly, and then impose restriction on movement, restriction on marriage, restriction on education. That is what I have seen. My grandfather was a member of parliament. I was not recognized as a citizen. I couldn't go to the university in Burma, and I have faced those restrictions from The Hague to Amsterdam. To go, we need to get a pass. It takes 2 to 3 days. If you want to get married, you need to get a pass. If you get married, secretly sentenced to jail. This is what, in my childhood time, I have seen that. We've been crying for that. As a human being, what we need more, we are human beings, we want to live equally, like other nationalities of Burma. That is what we had in one time. My grandfather's time, that is what we had. So why I cannot? Because this is very systematic, intentionally destroying our community. And then they create popular violence. And then a state-organized violence happened 2012, 140,000 become IDPs, and then they restricted humanitarian aid, and people are fleeing by boat. Many people died at the high sea, and we have seen mass killing. So it's been going on for many decades. So why now? That's why I mentioned it. It's very high time international community, governments have to support Gambia firstly. Secondly, they have to monitor, and UN Security Council have to monitor what is happening. And without other country support, Gambia alone will not be able to continue. It's a long way to go. We need to, for this case. So with that, we can see something from international community, something to move forward. And another thing is not only justice and accountability measures. Not only this ICJ case. Our organization, Burmese Rohingya Organization UK, we did a case in Argentina. Still waiting to see what we can hear for when they open the investigation. And we have ICC case. So we need to look on that one thing, military, and another side, government. They are working parallelly. We cannot divide. People are here saying, Aung San Suu Kyi can't do anything. And these are military things. And if we push democratic, it's so-called democratization so far we can see. How can 1 million people are facing genocide when they are Snape and Yangon, so democratic things are going on? This is totally disturbing. It's a big insult to the Rohingya victims like me, like us here. Because how can you forget 1 million people are facing this serious situation, and this is, they are saying the other side is democrat. I can't see that. As a victim, as a genocide survivor, I will not accept it. I'm frankly speaking. Because there is no such way. The whole system needs to be changed in Burma. This judicial system, military and civilian government, they are orchestrating. You see, the way someone say about ICOE, I don't recognize that independent commission of inquiry. This is government commission. There is no such thing we should put I there, independent. No, not at all. This is systematically, they are trying to turn away this ICJ case. They just simply diverting the issue. And those commissions, they have no quality to decide what is war crimes and what is the genocide. There is no such qualification. They have that. Who they are, they can decide it. And they are not lawyers. Those are government director generals, and those are picked by the government. And this is, the admission of war crimes is actually denial of genocide and latest spin of this Burmese government. Believe me, this is just what they're trying to do. And the commission members themselves, the secretary of head of secretariat, Lina Ghosh, she is head of secretariat on that Burma so-called ICOE head of secretariat. And the other side, she was sitting with Dosu in ICJ. Can you believe it? What a funny joke. Believe it's a very funny joke. Serious. How could they do that? That's why we can see 17 anonymously these ICJ provisional measures were granted. Good, they did that anyway, whatever. And now nobody will believe them. This is that much way we can see. And the other side, one of the commissioners is selling and taking the killing fields of the Rohingya Aung Tha. One is commissioner there. So he is the person. He is the confiscating Rohingya lands and those killing fields where Rohingya were killed. This Salim, this commissioner, believe me, this is how this government, so-called government commission, why people are calling this ICOE. Very funny, unfortunately. And so they have no quality, no professional, nothing at all. Even some people graduate can do much better than the others. These are DGs, so-called government, picked, all our government picked people. So we have to shake this narrative. We have to destroy their arguments. There is no such way. People are killing, people are dying every day. We are receiving. I just received a message from the camp. How the people, they are not getting humanitarian aid better way. They are trying to flee from the Sittwe IDP camps and Pokto IDP camps. How many more Rohingya need to die at the high sea by boat? Why? Because the government created impossible situation for the Rohingyas, whether you die in the camps or you leave from the country. There's two ways. One, that option. This is what even former President Thein Sein have mentioned, UNHCR High Commissioner in 12 July 2012. The only solution for these people is whether keeping them in the camps or sending them to the third countries. That is, system. They institutionalized persecution, proper roadmap they have drawn. This is what's going on. So, in this serious situation, without international intervention, without international support, government support, and other countries must support it, and this genocide will end. Thank you very much for all your support continuously. We really appreciate that, for your continuous writing to the medias and, talking to the medias and writing articles and advocating to the governments. We really appreciate many people are showing solidarity with us, supporting this cause. But governments, they are not doing enough. Much more need to be done to stop this genocide. This is high time to push the Burmese government and to dismiss those ICOE and those kind of reports If they come up next future, we have to report. They must just follow, comply these provisional measures. And then this genocide will end. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before I open the floor for comments, I think, Nay, you had
Yeah,
something to add.
It would be great if I can have a few minutes, just
Yes,
5
please.
minutes, to add some comment about the so-called Independent Commission of Inquiry. My colleague and brother Tonking also mentioned about it, and he has briefed you. I still have some comment. Just now, I'm seeing the article from the Financial Times here. Aung San Suu Kyi give Myanmar time to deliver justice on war crime. This is, as he said, this report is actually in Myanmar, to accuse Tamaro something against Tamaro is, you have the high risk. But this report, they are naming it war crime. This was, the collaboration between Thermidor and this 4 commissioner and the government to escape from this International Court of Justice. Now you are seeing the article on the Financial Times that, gives Myanmar time to deliver justice on war crime. So, as he has mentioned, all the 4 commissioners are the handpicked, that they were the former government employee, 2 ambassadors and the 2 from the Myanmar, they were not independent, they were picked up by the de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi, so they are not from the UN organization or any independent organization. And as he has also mentioned, for the Lina Ghosh, I will not go to the detail, he has mentioned detail. For the Lina Ghosh, if you want to see the photo, you can just go to the rohingyatoday.com, where you will see the 2 pictures. One is she was sitting behind the Aung San Suu Kyi at the International Court of Justice. She is advisor to the man who represented there Myanmar, Union Minister of the State Consular Office, Cho Tin Sui. She's the advisor of this Cho Tin Sui. On the other side, she worked for this so-called this Independent Commission of Inquiry as the head of the Secretariat. So now, with this only, you can see clearly whether this independent commission is independent commission or the government commission. Okay? So let me go to another point, like killing. They have said, I have read the 15-page executive summary in English and the 26-page in Burmese language. So they have said that, 500 to 600 Rohingya were killed. Most of them are the ASAR fighter. And a few of them are the villager. And as my sister mentioned, there were no rape at all. Only the sexual violence, the searching body, So like, I have been following the story full time, like during 2017 violence and the 2016 violence. I slept like daily 2 hours maximum to follow all the story, So I know everything, like they claim that on 25th of August, 30 police outposts were coordinately attacked by the Arkhan Rohingya Salvation Army. They are poorly armed, and the angry young people who are living under oppression for more than 4 decades. And there are the various media report, and that there are the video clips as well on the CNN website. You can still watch, They have only the machete and the knife and the something like that, How they can coordinate 30 police outposts. This is unbelievable. And also, we don't have any credible report that they have attacked the 30 police outposts on 25th of August. And additional new thing I learned from this executive summary, from 25th of August to 5th of September, another 26 police outposts were attacked by the ASAR. I never heard this, you know. So this is the new thing. The other things are, you know, I have read this, all these things, you know, before the Commander-in-Chief Facebook page was banned by the Facebook. So I read Burmese language. I speak fluent Burmese like other Burmese in the country. So I follow all the story in Burmese. So I have read all these things, you know, on this Commander-in-Chief office, you know, just, you know, they have added some part there, and also, you know, there are the claim from this so-called ICOE about the burning houses. They have repeated like the, you know, the military report like Asar fighter and the villager also burn the houses. They just put, you know, something done by this security forces, so they can be held accountable. And my point of view here is, this commission is to protect the criminal, the military criminal. The May Online is the top criminal, and then Nobel Peace Laureate Aung San Suu Kyi, de facto leader of the country, has been collaborating with this May Online since she came into the office. Military always claim that, you know, they got the permission from the president office. The president, former president Tinjo, or the current sitting president Win Myint, both are the puppet, and they are nothing. They are not the decision maker. Aung San Suu Kyi alone is the decision maker. That, you know, because, you know, most of you might not read the Burmese language, and, you know, whatever you are getting in English language is the 15% or the maximum 20% of the news story from the country. So I read everything in the social media in every place. So she is the most powerful, and collaborating with the May Online, she is complicity in this ongoing genocide. Another one thing is, the commission claimed that they have interviewed about the 1,500. Whenever they travel to the northern Rakhine state, I know at least 2 days in advance that they are going to travel there. Because, you know, the local authority, they have arranged that their hand-picked people from the Rohingya side, from the Rakhine side, you know, they were well trained by the local authority, military, Boragat police before they arrived there. So whenever they ask the question, they know what to answer. So in Myanmar, nobody, you know, even whenever, you know, you travel to the area, you know, even the UN special reporter were escorted by the security forces. Nobody, you know, like dare to speak frankly. They all, you know, at least give what USB speak. You know, this way all the UN special reporter got the information from the country. This is what I know. So this, let me conclude, you know, there are also question and answer. So this commission, independent commission of inquiry this is not the independent, this is the government commission, you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Big insult, put in independent. That is my point. I'm coming up again. Because people are calling independent is a big insult to the victims. There is no independent word. Myanmar's commission. That's calling. Very biased. Myanmar's commission. Picked by Burmese government all. Thank you.
Thank you. I promise I will get to you with questions and answers, but before we do that, I did just want to recognize the presence of the Gambia's legal team and say congratulations.
Thank you so much. We thank you very much.
Do we have a...
Thank you very much to our organizers, our Rohingya brothers and sisters, and to all of you who've supported this effort. My name is Pai Makavan, and I'm here with my colleague Andrew Lowenstein, and our colleague Arsalan Suleiman and Pierre D'Argent, and our dear representative from the Gambian government, Bafu, who is coming to join us in the front. I just wanted to maybe just share some quick words about really how historic and momentous this judgment is today. I think this is really a great day for not just the Rohingya, but for the future of international law, and especially the role of the International Court of Justice, the principal judicial organ of the United Nations, which has really risen to the occasion to protect human rights and, I believe, to deter further atrocities against the Rohingya until such time as the court delivers a judgment on the merits. I would stress that it is astonishing that there was a unanimous judgment on each and every order, 17 votes to 0, including the judge ad hoc appointed by Myanmar in this proceeding. The content of the orders are detailed, they are direct, they leave absolutely no ambiguity as to what the obligations of Myanmar are to take all possible measures to prevent genocide in accordance with Article 1 of the Convention. But what is truly remarkable and unprecedented is the reporting requirement. And we simply had asked the court that within 4 months, Myanmar should issue a report in respect of its compliance. The court went beyond that and required that not only will Myanmar have to submit a report within 4 months, but that every 6 months, until the delivery of the judgment, Myanmar must explain to the court what steps it has taken to ensure that there are no further genocidal acts against the Rohingya. This is unprecedented. Yes, and I'm just going to actually turn the microphone over to my colleagues, but I wanted to once again thank all of you on behalf of our Rohingya brothers and sisters, the government of Gambia, the legal team. This is a great victory, but there's still many challenges ahead, so we should not think that the battle is over. There are still many, many challenges ahead, and we look forward to even greater victories, but above all, we look forward to protecting the 600,000 Rohingya, and we hope that the government of Myanmar, which to its credit has showed up and participated in the proceedings, will take seriously the order of the court. I'm going to just maybe pass the microphone over to colleagues.
I just wanted to highlight one further aspect of the provisional measures order that is particularly significant. The court ordered that Myanmar must take action to preserve the evidence. This is critical. It's a recognition that large parts of North Rakhine State is in fact a crime scene, and that Myanmar must take action not to destroy, but in fact to preserve the evidence of the crimes that have taken place there.
Nothing really to add to what Payam and Andrew have said. This is a tremendous victory for the Rohingyas, for the Gambia, for international justice. and it really is a team effort. And when you will read the order of the court of today, I think this order stands for the future, for any class of international law, that this order will be used. And the far-reaching provisional measures that have been ordered today are really also significant in the sense that the court is really living up to its own responsibilities and historic duties. On the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, I think this is not a coincidence that the court has been so far-reaching in its order. We are going to face an uphill battle on the merits, but of course, with the measures that the court has indicated today, I think we will be helped. We will be entitled to comment on the reports that that Myanmar will have to issue on a periodical basis, as Payam has indicated. And I think this is only going to help us in terms of evidence gathering, and we look forward to the next stages.
Thank you.
All right. I don't think there's any more to add after all what they have said. I think we've all witnessed the historic moment that was made today, and we say congratulations to ourselves and also to the Rohingya community. We look forward to seeing how best we can move on from here. So, but just to add that the Honorable Minister, Mr. Abubakar Tambadou, would have loved to be here. Unfortunately, he couldn't, so he has asked me to extend his apologies and his regards to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'll just add also a word of thanks to all of the individuals, organizations, entities who have been so instrumental in shining a spotlight on what's been happening to the Rohingya, on reporting on the situation, including the UN investigators. The FFM reports, as you can tell by the order, were absolutely critical. The UN General Assembly's resolution was absolutely important and cited by the court. All of you in civil society play a very important and critical role in upholding the international obligations and values that we all cherish, as well as uplifting the voices of the Rohingya who've faced an unprecedented and unimaginable measure of oppression for decades. So thank all of you. To all of the organizers of the event today and the events in December and the event in November, thank you so much for doing a very important job in making sure that everyone can hear the voice of the Rohingya directly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as promised, we will now get to you. Excuse me. Thank you very much. We have about 10 minutes left on as advertised, but we can go over. So I would now open the floor to you in the audience for comments, questions, and especially expressions of support for our Rohingya brothers and sisters and for the Gambia. I'll start with you, ma'am. Can you please tell us who you are when you speak? Thank you.
My name is Letitia van den Assem. I'm a former Dutch diplomat, and I was also a member of the Rakhine Advisory Commission chaired by Kofi Annan, and spent 2016 and 17 traveling around Rakhine State and familiarizing ourselves with all of the many issues there. And my question relates to the Annan report. Today is your day, absolutely. I mean, I was almost in tears, Yasmin, when you spoke, because it's so emotional. It's important. You need to take time to see how, to let all of this land before you can decide on next steps. I understand that, but on the other hand, it's important to look at next steps, because we don't know yet. I haven't seen any news reports about how all of this of today has landed in Myanmar, and particularly in Rakhine State itself. And I want to focus on that because there's absolutely no doubt that of all the communities in Rakhine State, the Rohingya have borne by far the worst of all the atrocities and the oppression and the killing and the raping over many years. But there are similarities with what other groups have gone through, although they have not experienced that in the same measure. But we're seeing that right now, coming back to life, with the fighting between the military and the Arakan army. And the question is, particularly for Rakhine State, what can we do? How can we actually support that this new momentous day becomes a day for all the people of Rakhine State? Can we see it as a beginning? And first of all, it's your victory. It's hard fought. You deserve it. But we also know, and this is what the Annan report also says, is that there are three major crises in Rakhine State: one of security, one of human rights, and one of development. And that unless you address all three at the same time, it's going to be very difficult to overcome the problems. So what can we do? What could we do? And we, I mean, in general terms, not just me, but I think particularly also of NGOs, INGOs working in Rakhine State, diplomats in Myanmar, the UN, what should they do in order to take this momentous day forward? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take some questions and then come to you. Okay. Yes.
Hi, Stephanie van den Berg from Reuters News Agency. I wanted to ask specifically about the requirement to safeguard evidence and to make sure that, because I thought some of you talked about people buying up land in Rakhine State, so I wanted to, if you could clarify for me a bit what is happening now with the evidence. Are people actively trying to suppress it as we speak, for example?
Thank you. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Just a very brief comment to both the ambassador here and then the journalist here. I speak as a Burmese Buddhist from a military background. I don't know if you're aware, over 100 multi-ethnic, interfaith, and multi-class civil society organizations issued a statement yesterday in support of Rohingya. And I think this victory today, however limited it may be, in the long road for Rohingyas' justice and peace, is celebrated, by a wide segment of Burmese society. And that needs to be recognized because that is a progressive social force that transcends ethnic and religious identities and past conflicts. Over 100 Burmese, Mon, Shan, Kachin, Rakhine, Chin, and Christian Muslims and others, farmers groups, youth group, women's groups, they say ICJ decision to grant provisional measures would advance genuine democratic transition and the culture of impunity that we have in Burma, and restore Rohingyas' rights and ethnic identity. That is precisely their wording. So that's, and on the writer's questions about the land, the crime scene. The crime scene is the land. It stretches almost a 70 kilometer. Yeah? And in places like Auschwitz, that's been declared UNESCO World Heritage Site. This Monday, we're going to have a liberation ceremony at Auschwitz, 75th anniversary of closure of the camp, the largest camp in history, a death camp. And in Burma, most outrageously, even to me as a Burmese, Aung San Suu Kyi has been leading an effort to prime this land in the name of development. And she is auctioning off, and the military is building barracks, and the local poor communities moving into Rohingyas' land. Yeah? So we have a situation where today ICJ pronounced this to be potentially a genocidal crime scene. But whether it's called genocide or crimes against humanity or whatever the legal name, this is a crime scene. And the crime scene is being auctioned off by Aung San Suu Kyi, and one of the 4 so-called independent commissioners, Aung Tun Tet in particular, who chairs Aung San Suu Kyi's committee, yeah, he is the point man to sell off this land. This is one thing that civil society around the world should start working on, to get UNESCO to declare preemptively 70-kilometer stretch of land to be UNESCO World Heritage Site candidate. Yeah? We will never allow Auschwitz to be auctioned off to build Ritz-Carlton there, however lucrative that deal might be. Vast 3 camps there. We must not allow that to be done by Aung San Suu Kyi, the military, in the name of development. Thank you.
Thank you. Certainly food for thought.
So,
quick round first, and then we can come back for more questions.
Okay, are you going to say something?
Yeah, of course, I'm going to say something. With respect to the Honorable Ambassador question, developments, the Foreign Minister Office has issued a report with respect to education, sexual violence, hate speech, security sectors, and repatriations. All of them are highly flawed. Okay, in a sense, which you have one excuse after another one just to delay the justice and just to remain in power. We don't think, with due all respect, once upon a time, I just strongly supported her 20 years back. When I was 20 years back, 22 years ago, I was a young teenage high school graduate student. So we did a lot for her, but in return, when she came into power, she's just hiding behind those kind of excuses, one after another. So with respect to the repatriation issues, Burmese governments are now making excuse of NVC. People fled. Those crimes. People were compelled to flee for their lives. They don't have any evidence, any documents handy with them. But the fact remains that they've been living there for generations. Okay. With respect to security issues, the army is still committing mass atrocity crimes on the ground yet. Okay, and there are still ongoing hate speeches. With as Sister Yasmin has described, in her speech yesterday's speech in European Union, that now the authorities are bullying our people on the ground, and when they raise these voices, they say, okay, come on, you bring your ICG back again. So these kind of things, and sexual violence is still ongoing. So whatever Aung San Suu Kyi and her government is saying is mainly not acceptable. This is one point.
I totally agree there. I don't think that's the issue.
Well, if you talk about development issue, development comes in the secondary tier. First, we need to have safety and security and justice. So Aung San Suu Kyi is giving the same message not only to you, to all diplomats. Aung San Suu Kyi, one of my Finnish diplomats, he's a friend of mine. He was also special advisor to the Finnish foreign minister. When he approached her 6 years back, she gave the same answer to him. I mean, not only to him, to also my great friend, former foreign minister of Australia, Gareth Evans, visited her. She also gave the same excuse, and all of them find that it's not acceptable. Well, so if you want to equally do all three dimensions, like development, what you call the conflict, or the other things that you mentioned, peace, you have to do it simultaneously, and you have to be very transparent.
That's what precisely what I'm saying. You have to do them all three at the same time, or you will fail.
Yeah.
So allow me to add a few points in regard of this development, security, or whatever issue in the crisis in the Rakhine state. The most important is willingness of the government and the military, because this country has been ruling by the military regime since 1962, but when they face the crisis by the sanction of western part of the world, they change. So in Rakhine, the government, even that their so-called this commission is framing like communal violence, but there were no communal violence at all. 2012 violence was also, it was pre-planned, it was state-sponsored violence. So now Rakhine also, we have, in this day, in this 1 year, I have got a lot of Rakhine friends. We had the meeting outside of the country, and they know now, how the Rohingya suffer, and they even offer, even the Arakan army today fighting with the Myanmar military, they make the open offer that, they are willing to provide any evidence for this ICJ case. They are supporting us because they are suffering like us now, more than 100,000 displaced. So the most important is willingness of the government and the military. If they are not going to change, we have only one option. Let me say two options. One option is sanctioned by the Western government, EU and the US as before. Or if this government have their own interest in business. They are not going to impose the sanction. I think we all should support the Boycott Myanmar campaign. So this way we can change the country. Because all the investment, the Singapore is the largest, one of the largest, Japan is the second, and the China, yes, we cannot attack the China because it's the most powerful, like a US. Okay, they are not going to listen us, but at least the Singaporean the company and the Japanese company, we have to stop them. They are directly financing the genocide. Thank you.
Thank you. Yasmin?
You go first.
I think you're talking about, we need to look at first as a whole in Burma, what we can see. I mean, especially in Rakhine state, for a decade, what we have seen is we've been living side by side with our brothers and sisters, Rakhine community. This is, I mean, they've been used by the Burmese government for so long. So I hope they realize these days, and still there are some parties anyhow. So there is a lot of different things in Rakhine community too. So the thing is, I believe that this is one step from here now. We can move forward something, how we can build up solidarity. And now they are understanding it. I mean, other communities, that is very important. First, I'm very glad to hear from the court, from the judge, that incitement of hate speech that need to be stopped. That is very important. I mean, from that angle, we could do a lot of things inside Burma for the longer term. As my friend said, you know, like, without peace and without justice, there is no such development we can move. I appreciate that international community concern, but without that, there is no way. On that case, I think firstly, European Union and others, they have to be very cautious before they do anything, I mean, in Rakhine state. And regarding on, you know, like, for other minorities also there in Mro, Khmer, that in Rakhine state, you know, Rohingyas and Rakhine are the largest, Rohingya are the second largest minority. And one thing is, whoever try to, you know, propaganda, try to do that, and, you know, a kind of misinformed, you know, military and NLD government. There is one thing that, as these two communities are the largest, even though there are other minorities, Mro, Tamik, Dinas are there, without one community, without Rakhine, Rohingya cannot live together. Without Rohingya, Rakhine cannot live. So we've been living side by side. As I grown up in Sitwe, and also him and others, we all been born there. So we have seen, you know, and very disgusted that Aung San Suu Kyi was put in at the ICJ. It's a kind of communal and things like. There is no conflict, or there is no communal or anything. This is government systematically doing that. So, of course, we need to look at harmony within the communities. That is very important. That will be one of the great important point. Thank you for raising that. I mean, that international community monitor first that justice issue, and when there is some improvement, of course, we are looking forward to show solidarity and to work other minorities. We are not demanding any state or anything. We want to live peacefully in our ancestral land by restoring our rights, by giving back to our ethnic rights, citizenship rights, and all basic fundamental rights. That is the most important. And protection, of course. Thank you.
I think one of the best thing that you all in this room and many others could do is that the support of the international community, the support of, government agencies, different, bodies of UN, or, any sort of grassroots groups could potentially support the work of changing the narratives of hate rhetoric inside the country. They are in need of dire protection from all of us. All of these activists, some of them are being threatened by the Burmese military, by the law enforcement, by the civilian government, directly or indirectly, and they're being hounded day in and day out. For example, the campaigner of the White Rose campaign, he was being followed by some of the police officers when he was just going out to hand out the rose to Muslims in the area, in Yangon, in the previous capital city of Burma. And with just the gesture of kindness or anything that goes against current narrative of the hate and of the justification of why Rohingya shouldn't exist inside Burma, was that it was too alarming for the rest of the community, and because it goes against everything that the propaganda has advocated for. And so for all of us to keep in mind that there are change makers there, and they're in need of our total support in order to change the narratives, in order to change people who are going to then turn into these people in position of power, empowering them and emboldening them into that direction, and switching out all these old guards who have been working in this circumstances where patriarchy, complete and total denial of genocide and war crimes, and all of this has been their way of being. We need to change them, eradicate their power. Unfortunately, that's the only way we could actually see the new Burma that we want, and that everyone could live in peace, not just for the Rohingya, but for everyone else as well. So being in support of them and supporting their work, ensure that any time that there is a threat against their lives, that we are going to be there to amplify their voices. That would be the most important thing, and the first step that we could do. And ensuring that there is, all these elements of gender parity within all of these representations would be so important. Because Myanmar, again, as I said, is a very patriarchal society. And so supporting the women who are raising their voices against these, military regime who are hounding and are completely, full of military men, trying to threaten women, trying to instigate fear in them, would be so important. And for us all to support these very specific kind of people to actually be able to, or to actually enable them to be able to do their work would be important.
Thank you very much. I'm thinking, in light of the time, maybe we should call.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think everyone's tired.
I think everyone's tired also from the emotional high of the. Yes, exactly. I know there was another question, but perhaps you could ask our panelists after we close the session formally.
If you have the question still, we can answer you. Or even after the panel, we will be here.
With respect to the preserving the evidence, I think the best person to answer that question is the legal team of the Gambian mission. So we don't know the know-how how to do that. It has to be a monitoring process, I think, by the UN or ICJ. So I think that's the best way to go. The lawyers or those who are involved with that process would have the best knowledge.
My question was more, what is happening now that you need to preserve that?
Well, the thing is that there has been new. Yes, I think Dr. Zani has already answered. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing left to do is to say thank you very much to our panelists.
Yeah. We thank you.
Thank you.
We thank everyone.
We all deserve this.
Very inspiring.
And as you leave, if you haven't signed the registration form, please do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. One day we all will go together to Rakhine State.
Yes, we hope so.
And someone will fund in us for private jet, maybe.